Something about this story doesn't quite sit right. It begins quietly, almost too quietly. A warm greeting, a familiar seasonal mood. Easter in the UK, where the skies are rarely blue for long, and the air carries that unmistakable chill. Grey clouds roll in like clockwork. The kind of weather that feels nostalgic, if not slightly deceptive. Because if you grew up with it, you know exactly what it means. Seaside trips wrapped in coats. Wind howling through broken shelters. Rain tapping endlessly against cold glass. Sandwiches in hand, while everyone insists, almost stubbornly, that it's a holiday. That it's fun. That somehow, this counts as summer. If you are enjoying this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story. It's a shared illusion. And maybe that's why this story feels so familiar. Because beneath the surface, something doesn't quite match the picture being painted. Those dark clouds? They are not just hanging over the coastline. They've been forming somewhere else entirely, slowly, steadily, over the lives of two of the most talked about figures in recent memory, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And this is where things begin to shift. Because for years now, a very specific image has been presented to the world. Carefully constructed, carefully maintained. A life of balance, wellness, simplicity, authenticity. But behind that polished exterior, questions have been building. Not all at once, not loudly, but persistently. Because when people start looking closer, really looking, certain gaps begin to appear. Particularly when it comes to Meghan's past. There are chapters there that remain just out of reach. Moments that feel incomplete. Stories that seem selectively told. And depending on who you ask, that past isn't quite as straightforward as it's been presented. And this is where it gets interesting. Because those who've spent time behind the scenes, those who've worked within that carefully controlled environment in Montecito, have noticed something. A pattern. Certain subjects, completely avoided. Certain questions, instantly shut down. Especially anything connected to her previous marriage. The reaction is consistent. Silence, deflection, closure. Almost as if that part of the story no longer fits the version being told today. But then, out of nowhere, everything changes. A new story surfaces. Suddenly, it's everywhere. Headlines, conversations, speculation. Allegedly, a storage unit. Old belongings. A routine clear-out. And inside, a collection of books, quickly, and perhaps conveniently, rebranded as something far more provocative. Diaries. More specifically, sex diaries. It's the kind of phrase that spreads instantly, designed to shock, designed to intrigue. And for a moment, it works. Because people start asking questions. What was found? Who found it? And more importantly, why now? But here's where things take a turn. Because at the center of this unfolding narrative is a man who, until now, has remained almost entirely in the background. Trevor Engle's son. Meghan's former husband. A figure who, by all accounts, had every opportunity to step into the spotlight, and chose not to. Think about that. At the height of global attention, during the royal wedding, when the world was desperate for insight, for stories, for anything, he stayed silent. No interviews, no revelations, no attempts to capitalize on the moment. And that kind of restraint, it doesn't go unnoticed. Because silence, in a situation like that, speaks volumes. So when his name suddenly becomes attached to this new, explosive claim, it raises eyebrows. According to the circulating version of events, someone clearing out the storage unit discovers these so-called diaries, reaches out to Trevor, and Trevor, in turn, contacts Meghan. It sounds dramatic, almost cinematic. But here's the problem. It doesn't hold up. Because those close to Trevor tell a very different story. No contact. No communication. Not now. Not recently. Not at all. Since their separation, everything between them had already been resolved. Personal matters, shared belongings, everything handled and finalized. Clean, clear, complete. So the idea that he would suddenly reappear over a mysterious box of journals? It simply doesn't fit. And that's where the cracks start to show. Because once you question one part of the story, you start questioning all of it. Let's take a step back. Would someone so protective of their public image, so aware of perception, so meticulous in presentation, really allow a storage unit to be cleared out without knowing exactly what was inside? It seems unlikely. That's your first red flag. Now consider the second. Because yes, there were items in that storage unit. There were books. Quite a number of them. But not diaries. Not journals. Nothing remotely resembling the narrative that had been pushed. Instead, what was actually found tells a completely different story. A quieter one. But in many ways, a more revealing one. Because these books, they were royal biographies. Detailed. Informational. Historical. Accounts of the monarchy, including multiple works centered on Princess Diana, the mother of Prince Harry. And suddenly, everything shifts. Because for years, one of the most widely accepted claims was that Meghan knew very little about the royal family before entering that world. That she hadn't researched it, hadn't explored it, hadn't even Googled it. But if she owned, and had access to, multiple detailed books about that very family, then that narrative becomes harder to maintain. And this is where the real story begins. Because it's no longer about sensational headlines or fabricated diaries. It's about something deeper. Consistency, credibility, and perception. Because in the world of public image, what people believe matters just as much as what's true. So why does a story like this appear? Why does it spread so quickly? And why now? Some believe the answer is simple. Distraction. A well-timed shift in focus. Because while attention is drawn towards something shocking, even if it's not entirely accurate, it pulls focus away from other conversations. Ongoing scrutiny, media pressure, questions surrounding projects, ventures, expectations that haven't quite been met. It's a familiar pattern, because sometimes the loudest story isn't the most important one. It's just the one that's easiest to sell. And in this case, what started as a scandal slowly dissolves into something far less dramatic. No hidden diaries, no secret confessions, no explosive revelations. Just books. Quiet. Ordinary. Unremarkable on the surface. But collectively, they tell a story. A different kind of story. One that suggests a deeper awareness, a greater understanding, of the world Meghan was stepping into. Perhaps more than anyone realized. Or more than anyone was meant to know. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Not the headlines. Not the speculation. But the subtle shift in perspective. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And maybe, just maybe, that changes everything. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more updates and insights, don't forget to like this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel Windsor Insiders so you never miss out on the latest news and discussions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this story.